What is up, Canada? What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about should the Canadian government have moved faster responding to COVID-19? And so today's entire story, everything we're going to be talking about today really is inspired based upon Global News recently did a new Ipsos poll just asking Canadians, what were their opinion in regards to the Canadian government's response. So specifically today, we're going to be covering how do Canadians think the government should have acted at the outset of COVID-19's global pandemic? Then what percentage of Canadians blame one another for not slowing the spread? So are we starting to point the finger at each other for why COVID hasn't disappeared yet? And then finally, what percentage of Canadians feel like no one should be blamed for the virus that's gripped the country recently and led to all sorts of things like provincial lockdowns? So again, quick reminder, this is coming to us from Global News' Ipsos poll. So we've got a link in the video description down below to the Global News article. But some of the highlights or summaries here are, it's been 11 months now since Canada began enduring the harsh realities associated with the COVID-19 global pandemic. Many have experienced job losses or pauses to their employment, financial ramifications, lockdowns, not to mention, separation from family and friends and loved ones. And then worst of all, some have experienced illness and untimely passings, right, of people that we care about who contracted the virus. And then recently, Global News commissioned this poll, and market research showed that, what we think and how we think COVID should have been handled. So here's some of the results. The first major finding is 63% of Canadians polled believed our government institutions should have acted faster to slow down the spread of COVID-19. I'd love to hear exactly what are your thoughts that the Canadian government should have done? Because from my perspective, we went in lockdown here provincially, right? Pretty much like right after the NBA shut down. I remember that kind of as a trigger event from my perspective of history. So, I think they acted pretty fast in my opinion, but I'd love to hear, how do you think they should have acted faster? Should they have locked down international borders faster? Should they have kept them locked down longer? What are your thoughts? And then as well, another insight that came from the poll was the feeling amongst these people is that the government should have enacted travel bans, curfews, and lockdowns much sooner. And, Global News Ipsos CEO Jarrell Bricker commented, based upon the Global News poll, that Canadians do expect their government to lead. They do expect that their governments are going to be making the tough decisions, and they do expect that the governments are going to be providing an example. As for the other third of Canadians that think the government did the best it could with the information available, this segment of individuals also believe that stricter measures were put on hold so that the economy could remain open for a longer period of time. And the Global News Ipsos poll revealed, perspectives on this matter shifted between age groups as well. So for instance, 42% of those aged 18 to 54 think the government did its best with the early days of COVID-19, where 30% of respondents 55 plus took a more conciliatory view. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, in regards to shutting down the economy or, locking down borders and things of that nature. Do you think, no, we couldn't have locked things down any further because it would have completely messed up our economy? Or do you think, economy be damned, we need to lock everything down faster? Let me know your thoughts, your comments, and your perspective, and what your thoughts are on the way the rest of us Canadians are thinking about this as well. So let's also chat about, what do people think about how COVID-19 is currently being handled? So not just historically, but how do we think our government's doing now in 2021? So nearly a year into COVID-19 life, Canadians are mixed about, whose fault we think it is for the current cases, the current situation, the current lockdowns and things of that nature. And yeah, the government, no surprise, did take some of the blame in this poll. So the poll results show that even more citizens blame one another for continually spreading the virus. So 31% think individual Canadians should be blamed for the steady number of COVID-19 cases. Are you blaming your fellow Canuck? Let us know in the comment section down below. Have you been ratting out your fellow Canuck? Do you call some of those hotlines when someone orders too many pizzas to their house? Let me know in that comment section. And then these respondents felt as if not enough people have properly followed physical distancing rules. Now, something I'm just going to point out here that you guys might be actually surprised by. While I bitch and complain nonstop about them, for the most part, I'm abiding by them. In fact, there's multiple periods in time where I'll go 2 or 3 weeks without essentially leaving my house. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not even saying that that's wise, but that's just kind of how I go about it, because I can actually just do all my work from my house pretty much these days. So I'm fortunate in that way. Love to hear what your thoughts are. What's your regular routine during lockdown and COVID-19 and all the craziness that's going on in 2020 and 2021 now? So Bricker also added that people know that this just isn't a matter of what governments tell us to do. It's also much driven by what we decide to do ourselves. And for a lot of Canadians, their fellow Canadians are not doing what they need in order to shut down the disease. Conversely, 16% laid blame at the feet of the federal government, while 5% saw more fault in the provincial government. And, here I'd love to understand just a little bit more what your thoughts are in regards to the different levels of government and their responsibilities as well. So, understand the federal government is in charge of implementing travel bans, buying vaccine dosages, and putting forth nationwide emergency benefits. Meanwhile, provinces, have the biggest say in things like how their healthcare and education systems operate. Provincial lockdowns, obviously, as well as if you don't like how school closures and protective measures in your region are going, that's on the province. And so this branch of government also covers things like the lockdowns, curfews, plus administering the COVID-19 vaccine. So while the federal government's responsible for buying them, the provincial governments actually distribute them. So other interesting points from the survey include a person's financial situation did have an influence on who they thought should be faulted for Canada's COVID-19 response. So residents who made more than $100,000 a year were most likely to blame their fellow citizens for not properly abiding by COVID-19. So rich people blame each other, and those who made less than $40,000 a year think the spread of COVID-19 should not be attributed to their peers. So it turns out people that make less money, they're much more understanding. That's kind of interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. And if you're willing to share your income bracket as well, that certainly provides some perspective for us. But lastly, more than 25% of those polled think everyone should be blamed equally for the spread of COVID-19. So it's nice to see that 25% of Canadians are happy to distribute all the blame evenly across everyone. So that's very Canadian of us. It seems very polite. And finally, meanwhile, just under 20% said no one is to be faulted for this situation. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your opinions, and your personal experiences in that comment section. Where do you stand on everything going on? Is it time just to open up the economy? Do we need to just lock down for 4 serious weeks and everything will disappear? Where are you at? I'd love to hear your thoughts, your opinion. So appreciate Aberrant Art is in the comments as always. We've got Jamie as well, and I see Will as well. So definitely appreciate people sharing their perspectives. Again, understand, in my opinion, there's no perfect answer here. I've said it once, I'll say it twice, and I'll say it again. That's that I don't envy politicians in this situation. I think they're in a very difficult position. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think that you can put blame at them, because certainly there's more than enough blame to go around, I think. So I might land with some of those Canadians that were super Canadian. Just let's blame everyone equally and move on with it rather than dwell too much. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the global Ipsos poll that they recently did. Let us know in the comments whether you're watching this live or after the fact. And if you guys didn't know, we're almost done our 4-week experiment here. Believe it or not, tomorrow is going to be the last day of these 4 weeks of experimenting with these new shows. So I'd love to get your thoughts, your feedback. Do you like the idea? Do you like the idea but think we covered the wrong stories? Do you like the idea, think we covered the right stories but didn't cover them in the right way? What other options am I forgetting here? Let me know in the comments. Give us your feedback, because we will be looking to experiment and change this up starting next week. And your input and your feedback will certainly play a factor in that. So appreciate you guys. Smash the like button if you enjoyed this video. Hit subscribe if you're new to my channel. Ding that notification bell if you want to see these live. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.